And I just want to ask everyone if you can please mute yourself just for right now, because it'll make it a little bit easier for everyone to be able to hear everything. And then when we get a little bit later, we'll be able to just have time in conversation with one another, because I know this is a very, very special Havdalah that we're able to share. Before we even start our blessings for Havdalah, as we know, we begin the ceremony by lighting candles. And just as we begin Shabbat by lighting our Shabbat candles,
yes,
so too do we begin Havdalah. And for some of us, the very end of Passover, with this twisted candle of many wicks, representing the diversity in our community and its rich history. And we say our first blessing, the blessing over our grape juice or wine. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen borei peri hagafen. If you have a cup of grape juice or wine, you can certainly take that and put it aside. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei v'samim borei minei v'samim. We take out any spices, anything that smells wonderful to us, as we hold on to the sweetness, to the beautiful fragrance of this day of Shabbat. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la ya la la ya la la ya la la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la ya la la ya la la la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei meorei ha'ish borei meorei ha'ish. We allow the brightness of the candle to reflect in our fingernails, taking a little bit of the light of Shabbat with us into the week. And as we turn to our final blessing, we separate the holy from the not yet holy, the day of Shabbat from the week ahead that we hope will be able to bring so much holiness into. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavdil ben chodesh lechol hamavdil Ya la 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 la. Ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Shavuatov, 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 Shavuatov. A good week, a week of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase. A good week, a week of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase. Eliyahu Hati, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hakilati, Bimhera v'yaminu, Yavo Eleinu, Imashiach ben David, Imashiach ben David. Miriam Hanevka, Oz v'Zimra b'yada, Miriam tir koditanu, L'hagel Zimra tola, Bimhera v'yaminu, Iti v'yedru, El Mei HaYeshua, El Mei HaYeshua. These words for Eliyahu and Miriam the prophets, hoping that this next week will be a week that brings us just a little closer to redemption. And before we turn into our main program, right after Havdalah, of talking about our rich history and all those who have set the stage for Temple Bethel to become the wonderful community that it is, we need to sing the Shavua Tov song so that we can wish one another a wonderful week ahead. Little candle brightens our hearts as together we watch the Sabbath depart. Smell the spices and taste the wine. The stars in the sky begin to shine. Shavua Tov, may you have a good week. May you find the happiness you seek. Shavua Tov, may your week be fine. May it be as sweet as Sabbath wine. We say goodbye to a special friend as another Shabbat has come to an end. Shavua Tov, by the words we speak, we say may you have a happy week. No one can hear. Very weird. Now, can anyone hear?
Rabbi, we cannot hear you
Now we can.
at all.
Well, we can, we just unmuted. We unmuted ourselves.
Yeah, but that shouldn't be affecting her mic.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Rabbi, at all. It's like you're muted even though you're not. We didn't hear the lovely song you were singing. Even.
Yeah,
But we sang it.
Now it's fine.
We heard the first part of it, but it then went, so we couldn't hear your voice any longer.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
faded away.
Yeah, after a couple of moments, we couldn't hear you singing anymore, unfortunately.
Okay,
back
can you
now.
hear now?
Yes,
yes.
Now you can.
Yes.
All right, I have no idea what happens at all. I'm still getting surprises in Zoom, even after doing this over 2 years now. But we just ride with it. I'm hoping at least you were able to hear all of Havdalah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, good. And that we're able to wish each other a wonderful week. And what I really want to do now is I am just really, really grateful that we can celebrate Temple Bethel's rich history. And we are truly, truly blessed to have Carrie Glickstein here, to have Sherry Brash, to have Sandy and Cheryl here with us, to be able to share some of that history. Before we get started with our That's So TBE Havdalah, I think it's really important that we honor two people who really have been instrumental in all of our centennial work. One of them, of course, is Angela Romero, who inspired this entire program of That's So TBE with her That's So Pedro walks through our community, giving the history of so many things in San Pedro, with all of the insight that she brought to us about Temple Bethel's history back in the 1920s and 30s, which she had talked about just a few short months ago. And we know that she recently died, and at such a young age. And we're holding her in our thoughts, and we remember her, and this program is in no small part dedicated to her and everything she has done for us. As you may know, on Thursday, there is a memorial service in her honor to which everyone is invited to attend to really be able to celebrate her rich legacy. The other person, of course, who we're thinking of is Elliot Bruner, who sadly died last night. And we know that he had been so instrumental in our temple from so many different ways. And right now, as we go forward, talking about our history, I think it's important that we hold him in our thoughts as well. I'm sorry, Roz, clearly this is new news to you, and I know it's really, really hard for many of us. But as we offer this program, as we talk about this history that we're going to, I hope we can uplift these two incredible spirits who have truly meant so much to us as individuals and as a community. And I know that that's a somber note to start this on, but I think it also is just a tribute to them. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the 1930s and the 1940s and the 1950s, people who we're thinking of with big hearts as we really can celebrate the legacies of so many people who are no longer alive today and people who are and gratefully can tell some of their stories. Before we hear some remarks, I want to show you just a few pictures from those early days. So this from 1938, and I want to give a huge, huge thank you to Roz also for getting all of these pictures in, for sending me so many resources and really working on it. Carrie Glickstein is the one who actually put all these names in this picture, I understand. So Carrie, thank you so much for doing that as well.
Just one question.
Yes.
Is this on 70th Street and Cabrillo?
In 1938,
That's the Cabrillo building now.
Right, but
Absolutely. That's
that
how,
was the original synagogue, right?
yes,
Wow. Now it's Italian club.
that's
Yes.
how it looked when we were holding services. That was how it would be set up. And when we weren't holding services, all of that moved away because it was all portable.
I'm just noticing, I was going to mention these, but I didn't
think there were pictures of them on either side of the ark. There's some tall candelabras, menorahs. And that, I believe they were created by my grandfather, William Waterman. He was a welder.
And I want to add something on this. That was the huge impact for me to come to this synagogue, because now we have on the windows behind the Torahs, there are 16 menorahs there. I count them, I always look them, and I'm so blessed that we have that one. For me, that is very important.
Hmm. At that location now. That's very cool, Efto. Thank you. I'm
You're
going to share another picture. This is from 1945 of the Temple B'nai B'rith men, and we're going to be talking all about this in a little while, but to give you some visuals before we start. Some names that might be familiar to you.
If you can name anybody that I couldn't, please help.
We also have this picture from 1955. You see lots of names there, trying to figure out who each individual was. A lot of history. And this was at the Royal Palms Beach Club. Some of our founding families of Temple Bethel. Just to put some faces with some of the memories. In 1960, here's another picture of the B'nai B'rith men. There is another picture that lists names of several people. I couldn't get that with this picture, but we can see faces of some of the people here. And then I thought this was really cool too. This is the center section of a tablecloth made by the San Pedro B'nai B'rith women that memorialized all the members and their families at that time. And Betty Waterman worked embroidering all of these names that had been handwritten on the in ink on the tablecloth by members.
My name's up there.
And
Right, your whole family.
Rabbi,
I wasn't on there.
temple.
Say that again, Ross?
That tablecloth is at the temple in the archive closet.
Ooh, very good to know. That is awesome.
Yeah, Carrie gave it to me last year and it's been in there since.
That's amazing. Wow.
As I've been cleaning out my parents' home, I found that, but what I found was that tablecloth had to have been a fundraiser. My mom had receipts for $5. She would embroider your name on the tablecloth. So you came and signed it, and she had receipts for $5 from each person that signed.
That's awesome.
You need to write that down, Carrie. We've got to make sure we've got that somewhere.
Oh, I
It's
see
very
Sandy
cool.
Margolin.
Yes.
She was in the class ahead of me.
Yeah, she's here.
Oh, she is.
And this here is in 1962, a Shabbat dinner at the temple. It was jumpstarting a building campaign so that a new sanctuary and classrooms could be built. And these are the 4 people who are in this picture. Pretty cool, September of 1962. And this is actually the groundbreaking of our current temple in the 1950s. And it's a video that we can show without sound, but to get a feel of what that was like.
Came to California in 72. 73, we actually joined.
It was taken by Sid Horn with his new movie camera. It's Rabbi Halevi.
May he rest.
A lady?
And Shirley Pike.
Bob Levy, Mrs. Johnson, Rebecca Johnson gave a lot of the money.
Oh, sorry, it's my father's liquor store. That's always part of our movies. We'll add.
But that's amazing. A couple more pictures. One is, we don't know exactly the year for this, but an old cookbook of Temple Bethel favorites. And we're hoping that maybe we can find some old recipes that we might be able to share in our centennial book or something like that to be able to preserve some of that. It's awesome.
The cover's missing from that one. It was blue and white.
Yeah. Does that mean you have one with a cover?
I'm gonna look through my stuff and see. I might have it.
Be very, very cool. We're going to ask everyone to kind of talk about the legacies of their parents and also about their childhoods in Temple Bethel. Here we have from 1957 some certificates that Sherry received as part of the Temple Bethel Day Camp. For being
It's
such
signed
a
by
good
my
teacher.
favorite teacher, Mrs. Rosenberg.
And
That's
and
wonderful.
also it was Rosalie Eggleston who became Rosalie Waterman, Carrie's aunt.
Yeah, she married my Uncle Albert, was my aunt. And my sister's on too. Wendy, it's your aunt too.
Hi, Wendy. Oh, goodness.
A confirmation picture from 1958.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I remember it very well, and that was a very small class, but everybody was such high achievers and did so well, and it was a wonderful time to be together.
I see one of my cousins in that picture. I'm trying to figure out who the other boys are.
Which is Who your do you cousin? see?
You can't see my arrow. The second one from the right is Larry. Oh God, now I'm blanking out on his name, and he's a cousin. You know, Don. I can't think of their last name. I'll come up with it in a couple minutes.
You know the rest of them? Yeah, I mean, they were all
I'm
like,
trying to figure out the others. I'm not sure. I'll have to look at it more closely.
well, I can tell you a lot of them. On the top, on the left was Jimmy Lehman, and then that is Mike Furman.
Oh,
and
that
that
is.
and that is Larry Frumas,
Oh, my.
Rabbi Halevi,
Okay.
Joe Cove.
Oh, Larry K.
Yes, and then and then we see Mike Golden.
Oh,
And the front, I don't know the girl on the left, but the middle, the second one over is what's her name? Cove.
Julie?
Julie Cove?
No,
Mom.
Susan
Julie.
Cove. Susan Cove.
Susan.
Yeah. And then myself, and I don't know the girl on the other side, but that was our confirmation.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. Oh,
This
look,
is
there.
just a little tiny tip, like a little taste of the 60s. We're not going to go majorly into the 60s because that's for future months, but this picture from youth group.
We used to host a pancake breakfast at Hanukkah.
A pancake
what we did.
breakfast,
Oh,
right?
yes, right.
And the youth group was Temple of San Pedro Youth, TOSPI, which is now
Mhm.
Bethesda.
See?
Temple Organization, San Pedro Youth.
And I want you
Yeah.
to know that Jetta Korn and our mother, we founded that together. And yes, it was Temple Organization, San Pedro Youth. And from there, we went to LA and we joined all of the youth groups. And it was so much fun, especially coming from San Pedro where there weren't a lot of us. So then to be able to be in the mix was really exciting.
Cheryl, can you ID the people in that picture? Because I couldn't. They were.
Oh, they
before-
had their
Yeah.
names on
Yeah,
them.
it's
That's at the
Theta.
top.
That's
Theta, yeah, Gainan. Here, this is,
and Marla.
and this is Marla.
Marla Berman.
Wasn't
My
Berman.
folks actually introduced her to her.
Yeah,
future
and
husband.
that must be Dean Drummond, which I would
Right.
know.
Right.
Right.
Ah.
In the kitchen.
One's in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So I just wanted to give you some visuals as we go into all of this. And it's lovely to see a few more people have joined us. So good to be here with all of you. And so what I'd love to do is for our honored guests who are here, and certainly afterwards, we can all kind of share stories from this era. I want to ask a few questions for all of you to respond to. So the first one is really just talking about what brought your family to San Pedro and to Temple Bethel in those early days. Whoever wants to start first, you're welcome to do so. Sherry, you'd like to?
My grandfather was a longshoreman, came in 1922, married my grandmother, brought her to San Pedro in 1923. And my grandmother was a joiner and a busy person, and I'm sure she was active in the formation of the synagogue.
That was Nate
Horn and Matilda Horn.
Matilda Horn.
I can tell you about how my family got here. Can you hear
Go
me?
for it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rhea.
So we came from Maryland. I was born in Maryland, and we were all born on the East Coast. And my dad was a computer pioneer, and he took a job with IBM here, not here where you are. I'm not there, but not in San Pedro, but in the area. And I think when we first moved there, we lived in Torrance, somewhere where near Marla lives now, I think. And probably the temple was a thing that helped to move us to San Pedro. And there were a lot of us. There are 5 kids in my family. And yeah, so we came to San Pedro from Torrance and the East Coast. My dad never worked for IBM.
Around what year was that?
56.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I guess I can go.
Yeah, thanks, Karen.
I figured out that my father, Seymour Waterman, came with his parents. I think it had to have been 1928 because he was born in 22 and he went to first grade at Barton Hill. And but I think they were drawn to San Pedro. They lived in LA for a short time, but I think the Priegel family was already established here, and they were related through marriage to my grandfather's wife, the Singer family. So, and so I think my grandfather worked for, as they called him, Old Man Priegel. And a lot of us knew the Priegel family and still in touch, so. Yeah.
We could talk.
You can
Cheryl.
talk, you can. Well, our parents, you have to
You're
unmute.
okay.
We're unmuted. Can you hear? Yeah, is that right? So our parents, June and Phil Margolin, they were married in 1940 and they moved to San Pedro. From Cleveland, Ohio. And my dad worked for the shipyards. And then the war broke out and my dad was a podiatrist and he wanted to open up a practice there. But then he was called into the service when Cheryl was only a couple of weeks old. So then my mom and Cheryl moved to Los Angeles when my dad was in the service for a couple of years until 1946 when they moved back to San Pedro. And then he opened up his practice there and became very active in the temple because those were his friends and they had to, you know, get to know new people and new to the community again.
And they were from Cleveland and his parents and family were very active in all of the temple organizations. So when they came to San Pedro, and they came actually because our mother's dad took a job at the A&P store in the market. And dad just thought, well, that's going to be the place. And then when, you know, after I was born and he came back after 3 years, it was the place to be. And all these young, wonderful Jewish families were moving to San Pedro and their heart was there with the Jewish community.
The Corns came from Chicago.
That's
but
right.
the family who we were that's my family.
Oh,
Also came from Cleveland, and I think they followed the other Cleveland Jewish families out here. Now, my parents didn't get here till 52, But my grandmother and grandfather were here way before that. And my uncle Leo grew up here. He's one of the
Leo.
men in the
Oh,
picture.
is that Leo Korn that you're talking about?
Yeah, that's Leo.
Oh, yes. Well, and Jenna Korn, she was from Cleveland. Yeah.
Yeah,
Her,
right.
right.
Ross Furman. And
Oh, my goodness, Roz. Okay.
I think they may have known each other in Cleveland. That's all I can figure out at this point. I'll have to ask my cousin Adrian.
Yes, you do.
Of course.
Yeah,
And Mike
I
Furman too.
where your dad's office was in downtown.
Our dad's is talking about. Are you talking about our dad or Bernie?
Your dad.
On right. He was first on 6th
Bernie's
Street.
office was on 7th. Your dad was on, Bernie was on 9th. Your dad was on 7th and Grand.
And
That-
then moved on
that-
9th and Grand on the corner.
9th and Grand. Your building, the building is still there, so
Yes,
is
no.
Bernie's
And
building.
you want to know something? You know where the top, it's written podiatrist in letters that are cut out? Our dad cut those out.
I
And the
remember
shopsmith in our garage.
that.
That's wonderful. So it's so great being able to catch up on all of these connections and see people that clearly we haven't in so long, right? I want to move us ahead a little bit so that we can learn a little bit about what legacies your parents brought to the community. So I'm
Rabbi,
wondering if you could, yeah.
Yes. Is there a possibility that all of you who are old timers like I am, like Barbara is, can write down just any little things you remember? And yeah, I can give you my email or email it to the temple, because we are gathering things together because we're writing a book about the history of the temple. And
That's
I know that
special.
I only know part of the stuff, and I'm learning things right now that I didn't know about.
Are we recording this tonight?
We are, and so that's one way of doing it. And at the very end, we can share exactly how to be in touch so that we
Good.
can make sure those stories can be shared both verbally tonight, but also in lots of other ways in the future. So I'm wondering if now I can ask if you could share a little bit about what your parents were most passionate about at Temple Bethel and the kind of legacy that they left. I know all of them were so incredibly involved in their own unique ways. I would love for you to share a little bit about that. Would you like to start, Sharon?
Mine's little. So my dad and mother were very, very involved in the selling of Israel bonds. That was my dad was president of the B'nai B'rith. My grandmother was president of the B'nai B'rith. My mother was president of the sisterhood. But passion was Israel bonds. And so in the early 60s, my dad, I think he was bombastic, and I think he got all his friends and everybody he knew in the temple to contribute. And that's before 67. That's before people were really that interested in Israel. But that was his thing. And he went to Israel in the early 60s and came back and with renewed vigor to do that. So that's all I want to say about my dad, is that he loved Israel bonds.
And there's been a strong connection with Israel bonds in the temple for a very, very long time because of that. Thank you. Carrie, would you like to go next?
Sure. I'm not sure I will remember everything. Wendy, you can jump in. But I think both of our parents were involved. My mom more with sisterhood. And my dad was also a president of B'nai B'rith. I think it's in one of the pictures, passing a gavel. But he was also president of the temple during the building fund. And it was in our formative years. And we learned firsthand what's required for a president of a temple. It's a 24-hour-a-day job, volunteer job. And at that point, I learned about that Mrs. Johnson, Rebecca Johnson, was one of the primary donors, if not the primary catalyst donor to the building fund. And my dad courted her, and she was single and old, and I don't think she spent any of her money. I think she lived in a very ramshackle situation. But she called my dad, our dad, day, night, often night. It was like he was off to go see Rebecca. So I don't I don't know all the details of it, but it was a real commitment. And I think, what was the question, the rabbi? You wanted to know what is this where you wanted to know where?
Yeah,
the-
what they were
was
passionate
important?
about and what they brought. Yeah.
I think years later, when the most current renovation and building project was happening, Dad was recorded, and I'm going to try and paraphrase some of what he said and what he told us. But I think he felt it was very important for the Jews of San Pedro to have a place in a community through their life. But I think he felt as strongly that it was important that Temple Bethel be a beacon for the greater community, not just the Jewish community. That this is right after the heels of World War II, when I think there was a lot of sensitivity to what do people think about Jewish people, and so I think he always wanted the temple to be inclusive and to do things for others and be just a real beacon of light within the community. It's very concerned about how people viewed the Jewish community, and so giving us a responsibility to do good, greater good. So.
Thank you. That's so beautiful. And clearly he has, because so many people talk about him to this day and the legacy that he has left.
Good guy. We were lucky. So
I guess we have to say, I think with Mom and Dad, it was really about the youth also, because there weren't a lot of us in San Pedro in those days. And so they were very active in any of the celebrations that were there. The Purim, Daddy was always Haman, if there was a participation in the youth group, they really, whatever it was, they just wanted us to be part of a group so we could feel the sense of belonging. As I think Dad and Mom felt very strongly about that. And they also were temple, they were B'nai B'rith president, temple president. Mom was Bethel president, all those things that, we saw where leadership really was, and it helped us grow and become leaders who we are today.
Right.
Their legacy.
Right. They were very involved in the temple. They would, if it was a Purim carnival, our dad would build whatever needed to be built that day. He would build a sukkah every year. And I remember my mother making brisket in the kitchen because they were selling brisket one time. And I remember Sherry saying, the kids would come and it was crack of dawn and they would give us money and we'd have to go and get pancakes at the little place next door. But our parents were so involved to get whatever was going on that day. So it was very much a part of their lives.
And we learned from them. And we hopefully are teaching our kids the same. They, during the high holidays, then when they say we're standing on those that came before us,
Yeah.
I know that I feel that every year. And I'm sure the rest of us feel the same way.
So I think that actually is a really wonderful segue, because the next question is really, what was it like growing up at Temple Bethel? And I know for both of you, you became leaders just like your parents did, right? But if you want to share a little bit about what all of that was like for you, that'd be wonderful.
I remember, feeling very secure there, going to religious school every Sunday school, being confirmed at the temple. I was not bat mitzvahed, but my dear friend Susie Kaplan, who was probably the first one to be bat mitzvahed in the temple. So that was really a big deal. Women, and then Dina Marcus, she was right after that. But it was a wonderful place to grow up because there were so few of us that even when it came to be the high holidays, and of course we stayed out of school, and then we'd go into the attendance office and everybody would look at us, why were you out? Maybe there are 5 Jewish kids in San Pedro in our schools, where now it's so different. But We were always, I certainly was proud to be Jewish, and and that's how we were brought up. It was wonderful. Yeah, the celebrations were very, very important to us. And even though it wasn't like, we weren't part of the fisherman's fiesta and all those other sorts of things, if you all know what I mean. We had our own family, and the family was the temple, and we were always very proud to be there. And I only remember when we finally moved from the Cabrillo building to the new temple, what it was like the birth of a child for all of us. It was quite an honor. And to this day, I want to tell you that it's been a long time since we were in San Pedro, but a few years ago, we took a tour and we went by the temple. We went by Daddy's office. We went by our house, and we showed our friends. We took a bus and showed them. And we were so proud to be able to share that. So that's a little bit about us.
I wanted to respond to what you were saying, Cheryl, because I was thinking the same thing about the legacy of leadership and participation that our parents created. And I know we ended up in the same community. So
yes,
it wasn't very long ago, maybe 5 years ago, that our temple up in Thousand Oaks area had we commissioned a Torah writing, and I ran into Cheryl in the grocery store, and I recruited her to work with me on an event for the Torah celebration. So I think it was very sweet to do that. It was like from generation to generation, for
that
sure.
was an honor. I have to tell you, it was.
For us to, and well, we could go on about that, but I was thinking that temple was really a home, and we knew all the adults, including Brickmans. I know you're there somewhere.
They're hiding.
But all of the Rheingold, everybody knew all the kids, and we knew the adults and the older people that we are now. Speak
for yourself. No teasing.
Okay. And we felt very safe, and it just felt very comfortable. And so one story I shared yesterday, because I remember those of us that remember the pink chaise lounge, chaise longue, as my sister would say, in the ladies' room. And
my God,
we all spent a fair amount of time taking turns schmoozing in there. It was very funny. But we also did, I had Hebrew school there. We had the holidays. We had BBG. We had Israeli dance as part of religious school. I took arts and crafts there. I mean, there were just so many things.
Carrie, what is BBG?
B'nai B'rith Girls.
Okay.
We, Sherry and Deborah Landy and I were all very founding.
Tosby was kind of phasing out at that point. I'm not sure why, but we got involved in BBG so we could meet some Jewish boys. So that's what we did.
AZA.
Yeah, the AZA boys, yeah.
Traveled to the city. Tosby was not interacting as much at that time with the other youth groups, but BBG had socials every single weekend.
Yeah, I remember.
I was the only girl besides Margot Landy in our high school graduating class, because we were the last winter class.
So we were the last winter class.
Winter of 70.
Carrie's class was the last.
Oh, Carrie's was. Okay, I thought
we
mine
were
was.
close.
But anyhow, I have something to show you. My family still insists that we use this children's Haggadah, originally published in 1936. This is from 1950. And I think it was Rabbi Lee, may he rest, that he wrote another Haggadah. So somebody said, oh, you can take them home and use them with your family. Well, my family has never stopped using them, even though I've written my own Haggadah. They like that one.
That's great.
I didn't mention, Barbara, you were part of our childhood too, because junior choir, you were our fearless leader for many.
Yeah, I took over from Mrs. Abramson when she left, and I did the music from kindergarten through 10th grade.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Right. You were asking what brought families to the temple. Obviously, my family came because our the rest of our family belonged. My uncle had been the president of the temple even before my parents got there. But when my mom came, she didn't have any other family other than my father's family. So she was looking for friendship and connection, and she didn't drive at that time or anything. So all the ladies in B'nai B'rith and sisterhood were a big connection for them. And my dad didn't like being in leadership things, but my dad did stuff within the temple. He was an electrical contractor, so he did all the wiring in the new building when it was built. And little things like that. I remember that he put in the electrical system for the fire alarm in the religious school when they built the new religious school wing. My mother was the sisterhood president for 2 years, but my dad refused to ever get involved with the board or anything. He did everything.
Your dad was Eugene.
Right, right. But my mom started the sisterhood gift shop. She used to have it in
Wow.
her car. And she and I can't remember who else worked with her. There were two, she and one other person started the Hamantaschen sales. We used to make the dough in the kitchen. We had a big stand-up mixer in there, and I used to have to go with her every weekend to get dough made so that they could have dough to work on the following week. And they used to make dough every week and make Hamantaschen every week after the dough was made, like 3 months before Purim.
And it's never been replicated. It's not the same as what we get now.
No, no, and I still have her old recipe. In fact, Adam uses that recipe when he makes Hamantaschen for the restaurant that he's part owner in.
Oh my
But it
God.
sounds like Don has plans to bring that back. So we're going to be in touch with you, Don, about that. That'd be awesome.
I don't care if we have to make them in the temple kitchen again, but we're going to
That
make
would be funny.
I love it. I love the passion. It's great. It's handed down one generation to the next and married into and all sorts of stuff. And it's absolutely fabulous.
Going back to when I was president, which is a little over 20 years ago, we were still making 7,000 to 8,000 a year, like maybe 700 per day. And we would come in one night during the week and all day Sunday, and we would have a crew. And we only had, we could only fit in the kitchen 8 or 10 people at most. But we would sit there and we had 2 or 3 that cut the dough and pinch the dough, and, a couple that would fill them and all of that. And I used to run the ovens with timers. We did it all by hand, but it was completely different and fabulous. So we're going to do that again, one way or the other.
Oh, that's cute.
Sounds wonderful. Is there anyone else who is here who wanted to share a little bit about their childhood if you grew up at the temple in the 50s or the 60s?
Rabbi, can I want to say one thing to, is it Sherry? Yeah, Sherry.
Yeah.
When I moved to San Pedro, which is almost 50 years ago, your parents were my neighbors in the courtyard, and they were one of the
I didn't know that.
those people. And your brother used to sit out with me, and we're still friends to this day.
Oh, I did not know that. Well, we were talking yesterday, my brother and I used to like to go on Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah. We'd go to the services that the Alta Cockers would have at 8 o'clock in the morning. We would stay the entire day and we would daven with them. And, that was part of what we had to do. And then I said we would have to leave during Yizkor because our parents would not let us be in there.
Right.
So
We went to classroom number 1.
or I would go to
We
Rips.
went outside.
Or went to Rips.
Courtyard.
Right. Well, yeah, if you were good, I went to Rips. So, don't tell anybody.
Can you tell people what that was? Because I don't know if a lot of us here know.
Rips was a little
Coffee shop.
Hamburger
cafe, I guess,
place.
around the corner.
They made the best hamburgers.
They did. They made the best hamburgers. It was just not the time to eat them, but what else were we gonna do? So but we were very communal because there were very few of us. So we really, appreciated it. And it was hard growing up in the community. It was a Catholic fishing town, and before 1960, before Vatican II, it was a difficult time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I remember when Rabbi Hellman, may he rest, when he came in and he saw the need to really have a true principal, and he hired Art Margulies, may he rest, who was a public school principal, but he came in, and I remember him during services. We would have Saturday school for 6th grade and above, and you'd have 2 hours of class, and then there would be a service. And we didn't have many bar bat mitzvahs in those days, but we did have to meet with the rabbi about every 6 weeks. You had to lead the Barhu, the Shema, a couple of other prayers, and you had to give a sermonette. So that was preparing us for bar and bat mitzvah or confirmation talks. But I also remember a point in time where they would have a nice spread after a bar bat mitzvah, and all of us religious school kids, Saturday school kids, would be there, and we would rush to the table because we were hungry. And some of the grown-ups complained, and for a while they were saying, "Oh, we'll make their service earlier so that there's enough food." But then somebody said, "No, a bar bat mitzvah is part of a public worship service. How are they going to learn about it if they're not there?" So then they just cautioned us not to be pigs, so to speak.
Funny.
That's amazing. And I was struck when we were talking, because we talked a little bit about some of these stories yesterday in preparation for today, about how many people were referred to as uncle this or aunt that, right? That it had that true sense of family in a way that is really quite remarkable. And I don't know too many congregations where that's the feel.
Well, we had that, right? We had that amongst mom and dad's friends. They were always aunt and uncle. So they were just very close. That's how we looked at them.
Well, what's been
Family.
interesting is as I've been cleaning out my parents' home after my dad passed, I now have like 3 generations of guest books from their funerals and greeting cards from. My mother saved everything, very, very nicely organized, but it saves. But the same names over 3 generations of, I can give you back all your parents' cards that they sent, Margot. I mean, it's like, it goes on and on. It's the same, and it's very lovely, that they were there for each other in happy and sad times.
Correct.
There is yeah, sorry, who was?
I just want to do a call out because I don't know if you're still here, Joe. Are you still here? Joe Martizich?
I'm here. You can hear me.
Okay, I can hear you. I just wanted to make those of you that went to San Pedro High School and Dana Junior High, if you remember your history teacher, Mr. Joe Martizich, he saw, I wrote a little post on a San Pedro Born and Raised Facebook page, and and said, if you're interested in coming, come. And so we had a chance to talk earlier, but he is here, and and we're so glad you are and grateful. And a lot of us had great respect and have great respect for you. So thank you for coming tonight. And
well, I'm glad I'm glad you invited me. I don't know how to get the picture back. I'm just looking at
gotta
it.
Hit the video button that looks like a video camera.
Okay.
Lower left corner if you're on a computer.
He's on an iPhone, so I'm not sure.
That may be a problem.
And Sid Brickman, are you here, or is it just Barbara? I just got to introduce the LA Unified people that are here. We got Roz, and we got a lot of.
I was LA Unified too, way back.
I was for a short time.
I
Anyway, thank you.
I remember that even though I would have friends that I knew since I went to 7th Street, when we moved to San Pedro, I was in 2nd grade. And we would walk home, or sometimes my mom, once she learned to drive, would drive them home, but I was never invited to their homes. And it wasn't until my senior year at high school that somebody explained, well, you're Jewish and people tend to just be friends with or invite others to their homes if they go to the same church, etc. And since I went to a temple, that was it.
Barbara Berkman.
But that's why I'm so glad that I had the temple, because as others have said, it was our second home.
Right.
And the youth group for me was major. I mean, I learned about leadership and I ended up being involved in NIFTY activities up in the city, and I was on the NIFTY board because of that. And I know that Cheryl, you were too, weren't you?
Mhm. Yeah, well, that was all part of Skifty and Nifty, and that's what Tosby was a part of as well. And absolutely, my first date to the prom was a guy I met, right? It's Skifty.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
It's funny.
But that was, I mean, that was a huge leadership opportunity for those of us that were involved in the youth group. And I know that when in the late 60s, when I was president, there was a resurgence and a lot of kids started coming again. And we had a large group going to the conclaves that were, 2 or 3 times a year. It was really important. And the kids felt that isolation, both in PV and in San Pedro, if they didn't go to one of the local Catholic churches or whatever it was.
True.
So it was a major thing for all of us.
And it really was started in our parents' time, you know what I mean? They helped us all reach out to kids our own age to say, hey, there's a social thing out there, and they made it happen. And then we proceeded and created like magic every weekend. Those conclaves were amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember going one Saturday, we went to a Shabbaton and we schlepped all the way up to Los Angeles. I don't even remember if the freeway was built then, but it was a marvelous experience for me to spend the whole day actually celebrating Shabbat.
Right.
It was one of the highlights of my teen years.
Oh, that's right. Well, Susie Kaplan and myself, so we were involved in the youth group. And then with Skifty.
Was Reva,
Reva
Rumas.
Right,
yeah,
Reva Frumis.
Were in the youth group when you were, right?
She was after me.
Oh, so she was after you. Well,
Okay.
Susie's a little bit older than I am. I was a year older. And then we were involved, and then we went to the Nifty convention in New York together. And we also went to the Jewish camps, Camp Saratoga. So, I mean, that's how we, with our Jewish upbringing and wanting it and knowing, and then meeting everybody along the way and all the different Redondo and Torrance and Glendale and all over.
Oh, there's the Brickmans in person.
I want to say hi to Barbara and Sid. I haven't seen you in a long time. I miss you guys so much.
Thank you, Sherry. We think about you. I remember when you used to go home from grammar school, freshman school,
kindergarten,
when you were living around the corner from us, and you used to dance and sing all the way home.
Nothing has changed. Oh, and you guys haven't changed. You haven't changed at all.
Pardon?
You haven't changed at all.
Oh, are you? Okay, thank you. Oh,
This
it's
is
wonderful.
amazing.
This is amazing. It's so wonderful to to see you all as adults and having your families be part of our lives. We really love them all.
I don't know if any of you remember the old God is Dead era. I have a t-shirt that I'm going to probably frame and bring to the temple, and it says, God is alive and well and living at Bethel.
There you go.
Wonderful. I think we could use that as a fundraiser, right? Those awesome t-shirts. Very cool. So there are so many memories to share. And it's clear that since its earliest days, Temple Bethel has always been a place where people could call home. And I know I'm looking at Linda Herman right now because we created a new Temple Bethel video. And Linda Herman is the star of the whole video at the very end, where she says, just come home already, right? And truly, it encapsulates so much about where Temple Bethel has started and where it's come from, where it is right now, and where we hope it will continue to be. And for you, Carrie, for you, Sandy, and Cheryl and Sherry, I wonder, what wishes do you have for Temple Bethel as it moves towards its next 100 years?
I'll start. I just said that I want, my wish is that the temple remains strong, inclusive, caring, and that new leadership be nurtured to carry it forward from generation to generation going forward.
It's a beacon to all the young Jewish people that are growing up in that area. It was a home to us, and we hope it'll be a home to the kids that are there now. I'm sure I bet there's a lot more than when we were there.
I think that when Carrie first reached out to us and said this was going to happen, it just really took my heart away, because it was about the legacy of all of our families and all of our parents and what they provided for us, this footprint of how to become a Jewish leader, a Jewish mother, a father, and how to respect one another. And with what's going on in the world today, I only hope that the love that they showed us through the temple, that the temple can continue to do that for the next generation and those to come.
Amen.
Amen.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And Wendy, and I'm trying to see who else is here. If you would like to say anything at all, you're welcome to do so.
My goodness.
And if not, that's okay too. We are just so, so grateful to all of you for taking the time to share these memories with us, so that, I mean, as someone who's only been part of the Temple Bethel community for 3 years, I am learning so much, and I am grateful to really gain a brand new respect for just the incredible blessings that your families brought to our temple in its earliest days, and to be able to share this with all of you and with future generations as well. So thank you so much for being here. I hope that as you think of more stories, please be in touch with Roz, because we want to make sure that we really can hold on to this history and be able to pass it down to future generations as a source of pride, because it truly is a source of pride. So thank you all.
Rabbi, I put my email into the chat. So any of you that can send me anything you can think of, please do, because we'd love to get it incorporated into the book.
And if you're joining this after the fact on Facebook, please be in touch with us through Facebook, and we'll make sure that you can share those memories. We'll connect you to make sure that you can do that as well.
For those of you who haven't been on site in a while, like even in the years before pandemic, all of our confirmation pictures are up on the hallway. And every year, and I've been back teaching, this is my, I think, 7th year back teaching. And so I show the students, I said, there I was, and there are my siblings. And it kind of lets them know that this is a family thing and a tradition, and we hope they'll pass it on.
Right. That's lovely.
My children love to go to the temple and point out that our class, and we were 1968, so it wasn't that horribly long ago, we're the last black and white pictures.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Thanks so much. I'm going to stop the live stream now, but I'm going to welcome. Yeah, sorry.
I think Barbara, there she goes. Barbara was
Oh,
trying to
sorry.
speak.
Yeah. Barbara, go ahead.
Had been muted, so, but we're kind of like the next period of time, because we're trying to figure out, Jeff was temple president in 1988. Early 80s, in the early 80s, I think. And he got the Zebulon, we have some memorabilia, he got the Zebulon Award in 88, I think. But he was president in the early 80s, and then he had been on the board prior to that, vice president, all kinds of things. And we have a story to tell of when we joined, and it was really thanks to Ida Frumis. And we're going to be able to write this down somewhere. I know there's a mechanism, but I haven't really paid a lot. Do we just?
Till next time.
Barbara, if you want to do something in writing, email it to me.
Okay.
And then there's the recordings through the temple on the website and Rabbi, you need to give that information. I haven't done mine yet. I need to.
Yeah, we'll send that out again to everyone. But Barbara, if you want to share a story right now, you're welcome to do so.
Oh, do you want to share the story with Ida? It's a short story.
Yes.
We joined the temple. We moved to California in 72. We joined Bethel in 73. And we weren't living in our present house. We were renting an apartment on top of the hill. And I said to Jeff, we have to start taking our children to religious school because there aren't many Jews around here where we live. And so I said, we're going to go to family night services. At least we make that commitment once a month.
Yeah.
And Jeff was a very busy physician in Long Beach and didn't really have much time for anything other than medicine, which was fine. He was a very good physician. But I just wanted him to make that commitment, once a month to family night services. And so we go to our first family night, we're all set up to go to the first family night service. And no Jeff, he doesn't show up. And I'm there in the social hall, kind of fussing and fuming, having Shabbat dinner with the kids. And Ida Frumis comes over to me and she says, "Don't worry, honey, he'll be here," she said. And she says, "You go into services. I'm going to take care of it." And so I go into services with the kids.
Yeah, I had a sick patient at the hospital arrive and I was late. So I got there an hour late. And so the services were over.
Pretty
Everybody
much.
was in the what do you call it? Social hall. And Barbara was not happy with me. And Ida Frumis saw the tension, came over and said, "Oh, I understand why you're late. I'll get you some food. I saved some food for you. And then we just stay here with Barbara for a while."
Yeah.
And I thought that was so wonderful. They said, "This is the temple we need to join."
Yeah. And that's how we joined Temple Bethel. I mean, thank you, Ida. And she was great. And she got me calmed down and she made a beautiful, beautiful dinner, Shabbat dinner for him. And we looked at each other and we said, this is it.
This is the temple.
This is the temple for us, for sure. So that's our story. But
thank you so much for sharing that. And there are so many stories, and I know this brings back a lot of them. We're going to be doing another That's So TBE Havdalah in May, where we're focusing on 50s and a little bit of the 60s. So look out for that. And I'm just so grateful to all of you. I'm going to stop the live streaming now, but if you want to hang around and chat and reminisce, you are more than welcome to do that.